What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content here on my channel, then make sure you hit the like button and make sure you hit subscribe so you can help decide what direction the content on my channel goes in the foreseeable future. Okay, so picking up with the second part of the button, I really hope, like in the first video, I really hope you guys dug it, because to me, like the button, man, this is the best thing coming out of DC Rebirth right now. God, because there's so much cool stuff here. Initially, we open up with like Johnny Thunder. Now, here's the deal. This is huge. This is huge. It's not the first time we've seen him, but this is huge. And the reason why is because when DC Universe Rebirth #1 showed up, and the red-haired Wally West was traveling around trying to find ways to anchor himself back to reality, ultimately finding Barry Allen, and then Barry Allen remembered him, one of the people he visited was Johnny Thunder, because Johnny Thunder was part of the Justice Society of America. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, chronologically, the Justice Society of America was the predecessor to the Justice League. Now, eventually, DC launched the Justice League, and then they created Earth 1, which was a whole different universe. The Justice Society was basically the Justice League on Earth 2. It was composed of older characters. The reason why this matters is because of the fact that when DC launched the New 52, the only indication we had of the Earth 2 Justice Society basically came in the story Earth 2, but those heroes died off quick, fast, and in a hurry, because DC was basically launching the landscape for like Darkseid War and all that kind of good stuff. And so the Earth 2 line of stories were totally separate characters, Val Zod, different things like that, but it wasn't like Jay Garrick, it wasn't Alan Scott, it wasn't any of those guys. They were all gone. They were nowhere to be found. And so because of that, fans, while some did like Earth 2, traditional fans of the JSA were so upset because the heroes they loved were basically gone. When DC Universe Rebirth #1 popped up and then Wally West went to go see Johnny Thunder, then the idea is DC bringing back Jay Garrick? Are they bringing back Alan Scott? Are they bringing back those members of the Justice Society that everybody knows and loves? The question was answered to a degree when Wally said, your job is to find the JSA and bring them in. And so the implication here is that somewhere on Earth, Alan Scott is alive. Somewhere on Earth, Jay Garrick is there. Now, it could be they're in other dimensions or something like that, but it seems like they are alive. Maybe they don't remember who they are. Maybe they haven't gotten their powers yet, whatever the case may be. But the indication seems to be that they're around there somewhere, which is a very, very exciting bit of information to get. And so because of this, we basically focus on the button from the Flash's perspective, from Barry Allen's perspective. And the question that's being asked here is what's going on? Because when he was investigating, when he is investigating the corpse of Eobard Thawne, keep in mind, Barry Allen is a forensic investigator, is a forensic scientist. And so his job is to analyze dead bodies and look for evidence as to what it was that may have killed them. Doubly so now than in any other circumstance, because Eobard Thawne is one of the deadliest and most powerful foes that Barry Allen has. I would dare say Eobard Thawne could hold his own against the entirety of the Justice League. And so if someone had power enough to absolutely kill him, then the question is who? Not only that, from the words of Batman, he kept shouting about things, how he saw God, how he was terrified. Now that's huge, because in all the time that we've seen Eobard Thawne, we've seen him in almost one circumstance, which is to say he's cocky, he's arrogant, he's sure of himself, he's never scared. We've never seen an instance of Eobard Thawne where he was scared. And so the fact that he saw some force out there that was so powerful that he was terrified means that whatever that force is insane. Now, what Barry Allen also discovers is that on this corpse of Eobard Thawne is his own Speed Force energy. Now, this is Geoff Johns hinting at several different possibilities. And the reason why is because of the fact that for years and years and years and years, the nature of the Flash's powers were that somewhere along the line, he was doused with chemicals, he was struck by lightning, and he gained the ability to run really fast. And that was it. That was just the story of the Flash. That's his origin, that's how he gained his powers, so on and so forth. There was this enigmatic force called the Speed Force, and Barry was able to tap into it, which is how he ran. Now, what Geoff Johns did in 2009 is he wrote a story called The Flash Rebirth, and it was designed to basically kind of restore Barry Allen back to the main DC landscape, but to also turn around and provide a little more information and to kind of clear up all the past. It was really designed to be just kind of like a jumping off start, kind of a soft reboot for the Barry Allen character, so to speak. But the idea was that Geoff Johns said, okay, so here's how things work. Barry Allen was doused with the chemicals, Barry Allen was struck by lightning, Barry Allen learned how to run really, really fast. The more he ran, the more he created the Speed Force. The more the Speed Force grew, the more it permeated all throughout space and time. And so essentially what happened is that where the Speed Force grew to be massive in size and this huge source of energy, and because it that permeated everything from the beginning of existence to the end of existence. When Barry Allen was struck by lightning and doused by chemicals, what he did is he basically allowed himself to tap into a speed force that he had already created some future point in time. So again, it's a little weird in terms of how it works, but it still makes sense. It's still pretty reasonable. But the idea is that each speedster has their own energy signature. The speed force allows them to tap into it, but the signature of Barry Allen is different from the signature of Wally West. The signature of Eobard Thawne is different from the signatures of Barry Allen and Wally West. And so because of that, when Barry Allen basically realizes that his own energy is on Eobard Thawne, the implication here is that Barry himself was the reason why Eobard Thawne died, which the question had to be asked, why? Why is Barry's signature there? And is Barry the one that killed him? Now, from here, we get into this little bit of a segment again where Barry's basically talking to Batman about how Eobard Thawne was ranting about how he saw God. But something else to point out here, and this is something that I didn't realize when I was initially reading number 1, is that Eobard Thawne vanished and reappeared. But remember, Eobard Thawne traveled presumably through time. Now, the assumption for me at the time was that Eobard Thawne was just transported to another dimension where time passes at the same speed. So if he disappeared for 3 seconds, he was in that dimension for 3 seconds and then came back. But Batman raises a really good point. He says Eobard Thawne is intrinsic to time. So sure, he disappeared for a second and came back, but for him, he may have been gone for a week or a month or years and then just reappeared again. So it creates a really wild scenario, because then that begs the question, what all happened to Eobard Thawne? You know, was he teleported away and then he was just held prisoner for a year and crazy experiments were done on him and then he just came back freaking out about how he saw God and then just died? Like, what in the world happened with him? And that's why this is so cool, is because there's so much speculation that we can do. There's so much guesswork that we can delve into here. And so ultimately what ends up happening here is that where the two of them do share a bunch of information, where Batman says that he'd been studying the button in the background between the different campaigns and scenarios that he had been involved in the end, he wasn't able to find anything. I mean, he had analyzed the blood sample on the button and searched every single database he could find. You know, the Justice League database, Argus, the FBI, Star Labs, the whole 9 yards, and couldn't find anything. Now, we know the reason why is because of the fact that the blood on the button belongs to the comedian. It belongs to one of the members of the Watchmen who presumably come from a different universe. And so Batman's literally searching for blood that belongs to a person that doesn't live on his Earth. And so again, it's really kind of crazy. And I mean, as far as Batman's concerned, this guy's a ghost. This guy is a vision somewhere. Now, to make things even more complicated for the Flash, Batman said the button interacted with the Medusa mask and he saw his father. Now, keep in mind, Barry Allen did experience the Flashpoint universe, but the Flashpoint universe should be gone. It should not be in existence. And so the question is, if Bruce Wayne, you know, if the button interacted with Medusa's mask and Bruce Wayne had a vision of a man he never met, then how did that work? How in the world did that happen? Is the Flashpoint universe still there? Is it still present? And so ultimately, Barry Allen, you know, also counters by saying that he had a very similar experience. And we saw this in the Flash story. It's one of the reasons why I'm so glad I covered all those things, because again, those are all in that playlist. One of the things that he had talked about when he was, he was basically on a mission alongside Wally West, is that he basically, he had this vision, this experience where all he saw was the helmet of Mercury. And with that helmet came an unresounding feeling of absolute hope. Now, we as fans look at that and say, that's the helmet of Jay Garrick. It's like the Flash TV show, right? Like it's like the Flash TV show when there was that whole great big huge crazy thing with a black hole, and then out of that black hole basically came the helmet of Jay Garrick, indicating that we were going to see Jay Garrick in the Flash TV show, which we did, and it was an amazing storyline. It creates a really cool scenario because remember, from what we can tell and how things seem to be playing out here, either Barry Allen has no knowledge of Jay Garrick or Barry Allen never met Jay Garrick. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that remember, Wally West basically said everyone lost 10 years out of their life. And so it's entirely possible that the Justice Society existed, that the DC universe was as we remember it when the New 52 first started. The Justice Society was running around, Barry Allen, Wally West, Kid Flash, all that kind of stuff. They were all just one great big huge team. And then Dr. Manhattan stepped in, screwed things up, and it resulted in the fact that no one remembers who Jay Garrick is. Nobody remembered who Wally West is. And so it's completely possible that where Wally West was effectively stuck in the Speed Force before he basically reached out and Barry Barry Allen brought him back, that Jay Garrick is in that exact same position. But Jay Garrick is not powerful enough to get himself out of the Speed Force. He's not fast enough, or whatever the case may be. And so it presents all different kinds of scenarios on what it is that can take place here, all different kinds of things that could happen. Now, the cool thing about this too is that we also get this little bit of a hint in terms of what direction it is that DC is going in, and we'll actually talk about that in the next video. But with regards to what it is that's happening here, Barry Allen actually goes to the Justice League Watchtower, and we basically get just like this nostalgia trip of all this stuff that the Justice League's confiscated from different villains whenever they executed their different campaigns. And there's all different kinds of things here. You know, for example, the old school vessel that belonged to Lex Luthor, you know, the TV show version, the Super Friends version of the, you know, his own super villain team. I can't remember what it is that they were called, but we get all these different iterations, all these different little knickknacks and so on and so forth from stories in years past, some of which are from before the New 52. And so it was really kind of crazy to see all this unfold. But what Barry does is he goes back and he recaptures the Cosmic Treadmill. Now, the Cosmic Treadmill serves a lot of different purposes in DC Comics, but it basically allows Barry Allen to traverse the entirety of the landscape, travel through time, travel to other dimensions, to basically go from one place to the next. It's just kind of a way for him to break various time barriers and so on and so forth. But one of the other reasons why this matters is because of the fact that it allows Barry Allen to do so with other people coming along. And the reason why I say that is because in a lot of ways, Barry Allen's power was nerfed pretty hardcore in the New 52, really in the Silver Age, when he was at the height of his power, when he was super strong. He could actually vibrate through frequencies and he could essentially reach other realities. The problem with this was that unless he had been to that other dimension before, he couldn't directly go there. So it would be like if you had the ability to teleport and you wanted to teleport to a place that you've never seen. Well, you've never been there, you've never seen it, you don't know where you would be teleporting to. It might as well just be a giant space of blackness and darkness and a great big huge void. You know, it's easier to teleport to Paris if you've been to Paris, or if you've seen pictures of Paris, if you've seen a picture of the Eiffel Tower or something along those lines. And so again, with regards to the Cosmic Treadmill, it allows a lot more control. It allows him to basically hone in on something, to trace a particular signature, and then follow that signature to its source. And that's exactly what he's doing here. The question is, if his own energy signature was on the corpse of Eobard Thawne, and what he wants to do is trace that energy signature to where it came from, the Cosmic Treadmill is the most reasonable way for him to do it. And so what ends up happening here is, of course, Batman being Batman just like follows him, because he's like, yeah, I know I was on my deathbed and I'm clinging on to dear life, but I've got to go anyway because the story wouldn't be complete if I wasn't here. It's cool to see. It's really interesting to see. But the fact remains, oh, it is in this video that we talk about that. I totally forgot. I totally forgot. See how excited I am? I kept thinking it was a third part that we get to talk. Man, you guys are in for it. Man, you guys are in for a treat. Okay, here's where I think DC is going with this. Here's what I think DC is doing with this. Okay, this is gonna be an adventure. Man, I'm so excited. This is why I love doing these videos. Like, I get so excited. I get so excited, man. Yeah. So here's the deal. Jumping on the Cosmic Treadmill and heading to their destination, what they start doing is they start passing all these different versions of the lives of the Batman character, the Wonder Woman character, the Aquaman character, you know, the Green Lantern, the Flash characters, over the course of their publication history, dating all the way back to the golden age of comics. Now, initially, Batman's question is, are these alternate realities? Now, Barry doesn't give him a direct response. Barry simply says, Wally told me that years were taken from us. So the implication seems to be here, and here's where I think DC is going with this. The implication seems to be here, I think, that they are eliminating everything in terms of reboots, the whole 9 yards. I think this is the reboot to end all reboots. Where New 52 was a reboot, where Infinite Crisis was a reboot, Final Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths, 0 Hour, Crisis in Time to a degree. I think DC, instead of starting at 5 or instead of starting at 6, I think they're going back and they're starting at 0. I think they're basically wiping away everything that happened between the time the superheroes first appeared and the time they appeared now, and they're basically saying, here's where it all basically starts. Like, here is the definitive continuity of these characters. And it's not the first time they did that. Following the events of 0 Hour, Crisis in Time, DC gave us like this timeline of when superheroes first started showing up. They gave us this timeline of like when Superman first showed up, when Bruce Wayne first became Batman, so on and so forth. Imagine that for a second. Imagine that you go and you buy, after this whole DC Rebirth thing is done, imagine that you buy like, Batman #1 or something along those lines. All right, imagine that like the news stories that come after this whole Watchmen versus Justice League, whatever this is, imagine the news stories are basically giving you everything that happened between the time that the superheroes first showed up until now. And so DC can pick and choose. They can say, okay, let's treat this like we've never done a reboot before. Let's just create like a whole new landscape. Then let's say, okay, here's Batman. The only things that happened in Batman's life of any significance is that his back was broken by Bane, Hush showed up and made his life hell for a little while. Maybe he died or something along those lines. And here is a timeline of when those things happen, clearing out all the lackluster stories, clearing out all the bad stories, and only keeping the good ones. So that if you are a Batman fan, DC says, if you want to know what happened in Batman's life up to this point, read this, and that story, and you will be all set. That's where I think they're going with this. That's what I think they're doing with this. Now, I could be wrong entirely. I could be completely wrong, but that's what I think they're doing. I think they're basically saying that there was no Crisis on Infinite Earths. There was no 0 Hour Crisis in Time. There was no Infinite Crisis or Final Crisis. Everything that happened has all taken place. Like it's all just kind of there, and there are some stories, there are some things that might be, a little weird in terms of continuity, but on the whole, everything is there. Everything that we knew and loved before the New 52 is all still there. So I'm really kind of hoping that happens, but the fact remains that the whole cosmic treadmill more or less goes off track as if they hit a wall. Some energy basically knocks them off their destination, and the result is they end up landing in a place that they're not wildly familiar with, only for Batman to start poking around and for us as the reader to start seeing pictures that we're familiar with, start seeing a bat cave that we're familiar with, a bat cave that we saw in the Flashpoint universe and was home to Thomas Wayne. With that being said, guys, if you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like, and yeah, that cliffhanger though. I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.